What's up, everyone? I'm Mitch, and today we're going to be doing some mashups. This is my first tutorial ever, so bear with me. Don't really know what the hell I'm doing, but it's exciting to try, and we're going to make a mashup today. So, mashups really aren't too difficult to make. Obviously, the more time you put in and comes from kind of a creativity aspect, but you can really get crazy with mashups. But simple mashups with 2, 3, 4 songs aren't too difficult to make, but we're just gonna kind of go over some basics. So I have these 3 tracks pulled up already just for the sake of the tutorial. So we're also going to be using Mixed in Key, and we're going to be using Ableton to set the tracks and everything. So I'm just going to kind of work through just the way to do it. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. Kind of explain some stuff along the way. Also, at the end of the video, if you want any more tutorials on anything with Ableton or any type of basic music theory or anything in general, just leave it in the comments below. So yeah, first things first, after picking out the tracks, what I like to do is go to just open random Ableton Live, got 3 audio tracks. I just like to Shift Command S just to save a template or a extra version of it. Just call it Mashup 1 and just save it to the desktop just so we have it here, and then create a new folder and we'll just label it Mashup 1. Yes. Just so everything's organized. So put this in here. And then after that, just picked out a few songs just because I know these will work, and I actually already made a mashup of these songs, and I can put the link in the description if you want to take a listen to it. I'll also show you the final product at the end. But so these songs actually go pretty well together. They're pretty close in BPM, or beats per minute, which is the tempo of any track. So I usually use Mixed in Key to figure out the key signature and also the tempo of the track. You don't have to use Mixed in Key, but I highly recommend it to anyone wanting to do any type of DJing or anyone looking to make mashups. It's honestly a lifesaver. If you don't have it, there are other ways to look up the tempo and the key signature of songs, but you have to do a little bit of digging, or if you know anything about music theory or musically, I guess, advanced, if you want to say it like that, you could just figure it out via keyboard, kind of figure out the key it's in, which I used to do before I discovered Mixed in Key, but it's been a total lifesaver. Anyway, so we'll just pull up Mixed in Key here, and what we'll want to do, I already have them analyzed, but you want to pull your first track, preferably your instrumental first, and kind of put it in to Mixed in Key. And MS Project Sound, shout out to them. They have a lot of good DIY acapellas and instrumentals and stuff that you can get off their page and everything. It's awesome. So anyway, so this song that we're using is the instrumental. It's the instrumental track to Justin Bieber's What Do You Mean? God, I have Bieber fever right now. Anyway, look at the key result here is 4B. I'll explain that in a second. And the tempo is 125 beats per minute. You don't really have to worry about energy or cue points or any of that right now. So what Mixed in Key does is they based their mixing in key, hence the name, off of this kind of template. Just pull it up real quick. So if we match the number and the letter in the key result, it's 4B. So you go over here to this fancy little wheel, which will actually mix for you in the circle of fifths. It's a music theory principle. I can explain it more later if you guys want. But anyway, so you look at 4B and you see A flat major. So you know that Justin Bieber's What Do You Mean was made in A flat major. So looking at this, and if you go right across to the 4A, you see F minor, and you're like, okay, well, minor, major, what's going on here? So for those of you who don't know, a simple music theory trick, I guess, or rule is that the relative minor to a major scale, all major scales have relative minors and vice versa, is that A flat relative major is F minor. So the way you figure that out, if you have any random key, is if you start with a major key, let's say we're starting with D flat major. If you have D flat major, you go to a piano and you look at the D flat key and you count 3 half steps from that point. So counting down 3 half steps, you go from D flat, you go to regular C, and then regular B, and then to B flat. And that is the relative minor. So we see that right here. Same thing, starting with minor. Let's pick A minor because it's, pretty easy. No sharps, no flats. So you start with at the A minor, and then you go up 3 half steps because it's minor to major. So you'd start from A minor, you'd go to A sharp or B flat, and then you'd go to B, and then C, and that's the relative major and minor. Just a quick tip, I guess, for those of you who don't know that. But anyway, so this is in 4B, like I said here. So normally you would drag this song and this song all in and get them analyzed, but I already did that. So the thing, mixed key is very good at getting the key result, probably 99% of the time. It has some trouble with the tempo, especially with acapellas. As you'll see with this is Stadium X's song with Angelica V. It's called Wonderland. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it. But so if I were to drag this in and look at it, it would analyze as 131.9. So you look at it, round it up to 132. That's kind of a strange BPM that anyone would produce at, especially when a lot of dance music or progressive house kind of music is around 128 BPM. It varies a little bit, but mostly around that. So 132 would be kind of weird. So what I do in that situation is I actually have a tap tempo app where you literally tap the tempo. And I know Ableton has it right up here. You can tap it. It's just harder to click in beat or whatever. So what I like to do is I'll actually look up the original song and I'll just play it a little bit. And then I'll kind of just tap the beat. And I'll tap the beat on my phone and it'll give me pretty close to what the actual BPM is. So then I use that and I'm like, well, the acapella is straight off the track most of the time. So that would give me a pretty good idea. So I wrote 128-ish and it turns out 128 will work okay. So yeah, that's the mixed key part. Then once we have all of our tracks analyzed, we're going to drag each one individually to audio over here. So we'll start with the instrumental. Just drag that up here. Whoops. Totally missed. How do you miss that? Okay. Go right here. And then what I like to do is I like to rename my tracks here so it's not just audio. An easy way to do that, let's just turn it on down here real quick. Easy way to do that is to you click it once, you go Command R for rename, and then Command C to copy, and then go over here, and then Command R to rename, and then Command V to paste. So it just kind of lines it up for that. So then I'm just going to drag these two over real quick. Command R, C, and then drag this over. This one here. So I know what you're thinking is that these numbers don't line up. That's okay. So most of the tracks you're going to find don't match perfectly with the numbers and letters and BPM and everything. So that's why we have the mixed in key, because it makes figuring out the right key signature for each track really easy. So what I like to do is I try to find acapellas and or instrumentals that fall like plus or minus like 2, I'd say, half steps from one another. So you don't actually use these numbers to mix. This is just kind of a reference when you're trying to make a mashup. So 9A we see is E minor or G major. 9B, 9A, it's interchangeable. It's probably in minor because a lot of dance music is, but that's besides the point. So you look at E minor to G major or whatever. So you have, oh, okay, well, if this is in G major, 9B, that's only a half step below A flat major. So if you want to get, if you want to mix these two songs in the same key, like 4B to 9A or 9B, you'd have to tune this up a half step, or you could tune the 4B and 4A down a half step. So what we're going to do is, well, what I did before when I made this is I tuned this up a half step because these two are already in A flat major. It's a lot easier just to do that. Okay, so at this point we have everything in here. Life is good. If you notice this track, Wonderland, it's pretty quiet. None of the waveforms really go to the top. So an easy way to just make it louder is to drag this little knob right here. Drag this up until it's pretty loud, and you don't want it to clip. And by clip, I mean, I'm sure you know what clipping is, but just in case you don't want any of the transients here to go above, I guess, kind of the max range. So I get it pretty close. It's a little over. It's not a huge deal, but yeah, okay, so that's better. So next thing we have to do is we have to warp each one of our tracks. So warping is taking the original tempo of the track and just fitting it to whatever the tempo of you have in your DAW. So for the Justin Bieber, Ableton analyzed it pretty close. I mean, 125, 124.99, pretty damn good. So, but for this, the Ariana Grande, it has trouble like picking it up or whatever, how fast it is. So we're going to have to warp it. And I'm just going to do this fast. Like if you want me to go into detail of warping and how it works and the different warp methods, let me know. But so to warp, you click the little warp button, you click it again, you make sure that this is over the start of where you want your track to be, and then you type in the BPM of the original track here. So this is 125, perfect. Don't have to do anything more about it. If you want to be real technical, you can go and inline stuff up, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to do that. And then there's two modes that you usually use for vocals, Complex and Complex Pro. Complex Pro will keep the formants in the original, I guess, singer. So formants is basically just a fancy way of saying the I guess characteristic of the individual's voice. So like what I mean by that is if you solo this and if you play this, so you have this, right? You know, one last time, Ariana Grande killing it. So if we tune this 2 semitones, that's what ST stands for, down, she'll sound like this. And you hear it kind of keeps that original Ariana Grande sound. One more time, I promise after that I'll let you go. Okay, so, but if you take it, this is in Pro, if you take it just in regular Complex, her voice goes deeper. Let you go. You really hear the difference. And Complex just takes out the transients. So if you take it into Pro, and you take down the formants, so you take it, it's really noticeable down 4. So this is. I need to be the one who takes you home. So So then if you take down the formants,
it
gives you that deep voice sounding. So yeah, so this is already in key. We're not going to mess with this. We're just going to take that back to 0. Just to show you that real quick. And then for Stadium X, Angelica V, this is, we have to rewarp this. So we found out that it's actually 128. It's not 132 like Mixed in Key said it was. So we're going to just warp this one in the same way. You hit it once, you hit it, click it again. It should line up for you pretty much on the 1. If it doesn't, you just have to insert it yourself by double clicking. And then you change this to 128. Boom. And you got it. So you can go to Complex Pro and then turn it up a semitone. If you want, you can do that. For in this example, I think I left it on Complex because it just sounded a little better, just the way the audio file is. So yeah, and then basically, once you have everything, I kind of like to just make sure that it sounds somewhat in key, even if it's not on the it's not lined up, but it sounds, you know, yeah, you're like, okay, that makes sense. It sounds good. The vocals in the back, the vocals next, so you're like, okay, good. So awesome, that works. And then I'm gonna check it with the vocals of Ariana Grande. So okay, yeah, it's not lined up again. Doesn't sound too good. But like, you hear that the vocals do match kind of the notes that are being played with the instrumental. So at this point, I mean, you're pretty much done. And what I mean by done is you're not done with the mashup because nothing is like synced up in time or anything like that. But this is where you can be really creative and you can do vocal chops. You know, you could take this, you do Command E to slice audio tracks, and you can like drag this around and you can put a bit of Angelica V here and then Ariana Grande here and then Angelica V in this part of the track, and you can get really creative and kind of layer things. But I'm not going to go through and like waste your time like trying to make a mashup, because that's really, like I said, where the creativity comes from. But what I want to do is I want to bring up the mashup that I actually made and just kind of show you what I did and everything, just moving everything around and stuff. So we're back. So this is the mashup that I did. So I have the instrumental version for Justin Bieber, and I have just different vocal portions here, and then but it's all the same material. So it's Angelica V, just layered differently, that, and I've got a few FX just to kind of help with kind of the mixing of the vocals into the parts of the instrumental. So it's pretty much what I did. And yeah, these are just track volume parameters. I have return tracks here. I use Valhalla Room. Valhalla Room is awesome for reverb. It's just not loaded into this computer. It's a new computer. So, and then I just use a delay and kind of did the return tracks and, you know, how much, delay I would need on certain portions versus how much reverb I would need on certain portions, and just kind of mixed it in by ear. It's pretty much what it is. But yeah, I just like to, I just kind of let creativity take over, I guess, and a lot of trial and error. A lot, definitely in mashups, you just try like, oh, well, this would sound cool over here, or if I took this piece and put it over here and like layered the vocals, maybe they would sound cool. But yeah, so this is what I did. Oh yeah, if you have any questions about how to use a return track or what it does, they're amazeballs for any type of reverb or delays, or you can do anything with return tracks, and they're really easy to set up and really easy to use. So if you want a video on that, let me know. But yeah, I'll just play a little bit of it. So this is kind of what I did.
I have fallen through a hole in the sky.
So yeah, if you click on this, this is Pro, but the formats are 100, so it's basically just complex, and it's tuned up a semitone to match the key signatures. But yeah, see how it lines up.
Hide with every beat, touching you and me, and then we become one.
I kind of just chopped it up to
I
make
wanna
it
feel you
fit.
tonight. Don't need to see, so I close my eyes. Just let the light take our hand. Oh, we're falling deep into wonderland. I was a liar, I gave into the fire. I know I should have fought it, at least I'm being honest. Feel like a failure, 'cause
So yeah, just an example of like chopping stuff up. So this portion right here, this little clip is Ariana taking a breath. So in order to fit from going from this transitioning into Ariana, I took that breath and put it back over here.
I was a liar.
So it's not real noticeable, but it kind of helps like if this were not here. So if you highlight a clip and you hit 0, you deactivate it. It's easy to do. See how it's kind of it kind of just goes right into it, and you're like, whoa, I'm not expecting that. What is happening? So you go back to this. It kind of helps it flow a little bit. So yeah, then it goes into this.
'Cause you don't wanna lie. So one last time, I need to be the one who takes you home. One more time, I promise that after that I let you go. But I don't care if you got hurt in your heart.
So yeah, that lines up with the kick drum. So another way to kind of see if it's exactly lined up, you can take some transients like here-ish is a good example, and line it up with the kick drum. Kick drum are like usually the biggest parts in a mixed song, a decently mixed song, I guess. So you look at that and you can kind of line it up that way. But yeah, like I said, it's just trial and error.
Who takes you home? If I were to fall through a hole in the sky.
So I just took different portions of it and lined it up again, and then I just used some effects right here just because it goes, well, I'll let you listen.
Into wonderland.
You can't really hear it a lot, but it's just a simple downlifter. So downlifter, downlift, whatever you want to call it. And I use it at the end just to kind of help.
Who takes you home? One last time, I need to be the one who takes you home.
So yeah, that's it. Like I said, if you want any more tutorials or anything like that, just leave it in the comments down below. I will put a link to the actual song, also to any other page like Facebook, SoundCloud, if you want to check stuff out. But yeah, thanks for watching.
I wanna feel